Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2019 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGilvery's Speedway at 30th and High School and Speedway, and should you come into town for any reason, it doesn't matter what it is, make sure you stop at McGilvery's. It's just about 2.5 miles straight west of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They have great food, great service, and of course the adult beverages are ice cold. Tonight's show is presented, as always, by Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, and SVRA. A couple little things I want to mention to you. Everybody's favorite visit, of course, is to your dentist. Well, I can make that visit pleasurable by going to the Indy Dental Group. Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis has a phenomenal practice. And if you have any kind of problems, they can help you. It's a great service and one of the highest rated in central Indiana. Make an appointment, call 317-846-6125. And if you have computer trouble like I'm having again, call Computer Overdrive, 317-328-0766. It's the home of the free checkup. Go in, they'll tell you what the problem is, and what it'll take to fix it, and they will fix it. And should you be interested in owning a vintage IndyCar or sprint car or midget, you need to check with the people down at the Grand King shop. They can help you with it. They can get you one, or they can fix the one you got if you want to restore it. So give them a call. And by the way, if you got a group coming in for the PRI show and you'd like to tour some race shops, they have a limousine that can help you with that as well. So give them a call at 317-820-3959. My first guest is a gentleman that I am pleased to have stop by. When I invited him, he said, "What are we going to talk about?" When I made a suggestion, he said, "Oh, again?" But we're here again. Some things have changed since the last time he was here, and I thought it was time to check in and see how things are going. He is an attorney, went to law school, but prior to that, I believe, he played professional basketball in Europe. He's quite an outstanding basketball player. And he's had a number of organizations he's worked for, none the least of which I think was Disney at one time. Is that right?
No.
You were dizzy, huh?
Never worked for Disney.
Okay. But he has moved his way into Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the IndyCar Series, and now he's the man that handles the TV and the scheduling for the series. So I thought it was time. Got a couple questions, find out what's going on. Please welcome the one, the only. What was your name again?
So important I am.
You are important. What prompted you to get into motorsports? Did you have something in mind that oh, by the way, his name is Stephen Starks, in case you didn't realize.
Thank you.
Were you a race fan to begin with? You said, boy, this is a place I'd really like to go.
No, that's not what happened. I've become more of a race fan since I've been. I hope
so.
Since I've been with Hulman Company, but I did grow up watching the Indianapolis 500-mile race, but that's really about it, to be frank. And I had the opportunity to meet Mark Miles, and it was Mark who introduced me to Hulman Company and brought me over and introduced me to Gretchen Snelling, who was our general counsel and still is. And so I was able to land the job as our deputy general counsel for the parent company, and that was all through a relationship that I forged with Mark Miles when he it was actually, I met him before he became CEO of Hulman Company. He was still with CICP, but we had a mutual friend. I had clerked with Ted Boehm of the Indiana Supreme Court at my first job out of law school, and he and Mark knew each other because when Ted was chair of the Pan Am Games in 1987 that was here in Indianapolis, he hired Mark to run it. And so I knew of Mark Miles, but had never met him while I was clerking for Ted Boehm. And then I took a job as a lawyer for the United States Anti-Doping Agency in Colorado Springs and was there for about 4 years. And when I moved back to Indy at the end of 11, I joined a law firm, a litigation boutique on the Circle called Kroger, Gardis, and Regis, and I was looking for people to meet in the city that knew a lot about sports and what I was trying to do and building a sports practice. And so I reached out to Mark because I knew him and knew that he knew Ted Boehm. And so got back to the city and met Mark, and he and I would have breakfast maybe once a quarter over a year or so. And before I knew it, he had been named CEO of Hulman Company. And so we ran into each other again, and he said, I think I got something for you. Let me introduce you to our general counsel. I know you're a lawyer. You could probably fall right into that role that's open. And so I became deputy GC and started working closely with him within Hulman Company. And about 2 years after I was in that legal role, he came to me and said, I've got an opportunity to kind of promote you to the business side. Instead of negotiating the deals that we do with our tracks on the back end as the lawyer, I'd like to offer you the opportunity to kind of be the face of that and lead the schedule development. So it's a tremendous opportunity for me. I'm eternally grateful for him bringing me to the company, but that's how I got into motorsports, through him.
You had a pretty good career in basketball, according to what I read.
To some, it's relative.
Yeah, well, everything's relative. And you ended up playing professionally in Europe. Did you have in the back of your mind when you were in college before you went to law school that maybe you'd like to play in the NBA?
I tried to play in the NBA. I thought there was a chance that in 2001, my senior year, that I would slip into the second round of the draft. It didn't happen. It happened to be the inaugural year of the NBA Development League, which is now known as the G League. In 2001, I was the 20th overall pick of that first league, which was an affiliate of the NBA and actually owned by the NBA back then. So I thought that was good news. I had the chance to play twice in the Dominican Republic and in Mexico as part of that stint, trying to figure out whether I was going to break into the league. It didn't happen, so I just decided that after 2 full years outside of undergrad, that I would go to law school. So for sure, for me, kind of plan A was the MBA. That didn't work out, and I was a pre-med student. I had taken the MCAT for med school. After I played 2 years professionally, I felt like, it just wasn't realistic for me to then go back and invest in another 10 to 12 years in school. So I had taken the law school admissions test. And so kind of plan C, to be frank, was law school. And I went to law school, and it worked out for me. So I'd be lying to you to sit here and say I kind of grew up dreaming to be a lawyer, but the profession's been great to me, and it's lent to the opportunities that I have today.
Now, you got to admit that's pretty impressive. I couldn't even put my name in the right place to get a chance to apply for medical school, and you did that and became an attorney, which is almost as hard, I would think. So how has that background as a lawyer helped, because you put together the series, or the lead in putting together the series events for a season, and negotiated television contract. Has your legal mind helped you when they said, well, we're going to do it? No, wait a minute, we can't do that.
It's a great question. For me, for sure, you don't need to be a lawyer to do what I do, but I do think it's an advantage for my personal situation. I mean, these are all contracts that I was negotiating for the company in some respect before I actually became kind of the face of those deals. So the historical reference and the knowledge of what we were trying to accomplish from a legal standpoint definitely contributes to my ability to get these deals done now that I'm on the business side. Again, I don't think it's a necessity, but I do think it's an advantage. And I think that having been trained about motorsports and everything IndyCar and Indianapolis 500 on the legal side certainly contributes to what I perceive to be, moderate success on the business side. So definitely it's been good to me. It's how I learned the business. Hopefully the company finds that it's a value add. But I definitely can only speak from what happened for me, but I think it definitely helped.
Well, NBC came up with a program that nobody had ever done before, and that's NBC Gold.
Yeah.
And I was brilliant, and I signed up as soon as I saw it, because they said limited time, and I thought, that means it's going to go. Yeah. So I'll get it while it's within reason. I didn't have to get a mortgage on the house or anything, whereas I could handle it.
Yeah.
How has that worked out for NBC? Are they happy with it? They got more people sign up than they expected?
I think it's been an overwhelming success in year one. I mean, it's a new product. It's the first direct-to-consumer offering we've ever had in motorsport. I think that, from NBC's perspective, they had a number in their mind in terms of the subscriber base, and we've hit or exceeded that. They've had experience with English Premier League, for example, and I think that the success that they achieved with that property is we're in line with that in terms of the success we've had in year one. So I think that it's been a success. I think that we'll learn more from the first year, and maybe we'll be able to add more content. Maybe there's some creative bells and whistles we can kind of think about in terms of tailoring the product to make it even better in year two. But I think they're excited. We're happy to have it because we know the future of what's going to happen in the media rights world. And I think it starts with kind of direct-to-consumer offerings. But we're not ready to, fully walk away from television yet because we just haven't evolved to that point. But I think everybody thinks with the evolution of properties like Netflix and Amazon Prime and all those things, I think we kind of see where the media rights landscape may go. And so it's good to kind of dip our toe in that water through NBC Sports Gold and to see the success we're having. We've got robust content on that platform. We've got replay of races to start. IndyCar Series races. We've got Indy Lights all day. We've got practice qualifying from IndyCar Series. And we've got some archive content and ancillary content. So I think in year one has been a great success. We hope that everybody's paying attention to NBC Sports Gold, and we think it's just another way to enhance our series because it's the future and we're there first and we're excited.
How about the overall television? Have the ratings gone up? Have the viewers gone up? And I got to think that having, was it 8 of the 17 races on NBC Network has got to be a boom.
No doubt.
And has the viewership climbed?
Look, you nailed it, right? I mean, when you go from in 2018 having 5 broadcast events to in 2019 having 8 of our 17 races on NBC Network, just those 3 increase on network from what we had in ABC to NBC ought to yield a positive return year over year in terms of the viewership. I think you'll see after Laguna Seca, which is also on network, by the way, yes, as was Portland, our penultimate event. I think you'll see that we're going to be up year over year, which you would expect, and it's good news. It's great. It has to do with the momentum of the series, the way NBC has put us, front and center in motorsports on network television is tremendous. I mean, it shows how interested they are in what we bring and how invested they are in the IndyCar Series. I mean, you saw the growth. We talked about it last time I was on the show year over year in the Indianapolis 500 viewership, up about 11%. I think you're going to see a nice clip increase year over year at the end of the season. I don't want to talk about it now because we've got one more race, but we're already up, and I expect it to be up even more. Fingers crossed. So it's all good stuff, and it's largely attributable to the interest and energy that NBC has brought to the table. They've been a tremendous media partner, and they work with us closely, and we're excited with the future of NBC and what they've done already.
I have to take my hat off, which I'm not wearing, because I saw several promos for the upcoming finale at Monterey on NBC, and I think NBC Sports Network as well. And they had one with Simone Pagenaud drinking tea, and they did a bit with that. And they have promoted the event. I think it's slowed, it seemed to me, a little bit after they got past the 500, but it's still there.
Yeah,
you'll be watching something. It'll be a 15 or 20-second little spot, IndyCar next, whatever the event date is, which, in my opinion, has been lacking for a long time. And I mentioned that on a number of occasions. Was told, well, we promote what we know people will watch. Well, how do you get them to watch if you don't tell them it's there? And I said, it might come as a surprise, but if your viewership goes up, as you know, the rate card goes up.
Right. Things
work, and they, I guess, didn't get that. But NBC seems to get it, and they're, I think, promoting very, very well for IndyCar. Also, prior to his illness, the former vice president IMS Productions, Buddy McAtee, was here, and he said, mark my word, within 5 years, just regular television will be gone. It will be into the internet type stuff, you know, and he's right. It's moving that way to streaming and so forth. Completely different. To the races I've gone through, the number of people I see sitting in stands, there's a race going on, and they're sitting there looking at their phone. I don't know why, because I don't have a phone I can look at and see anything, so I don't know what they're seeing. But the world is evolving, but the good thing is that IndyCar is still staying to what it does, and that's race, and the race has been spectacular the last couple of years, and the new car is coming out 2021 with another 100 horsepower. Oh boy, that'll be fun.
I mean, look, Jay Fry and his team have done an exceptional job of really growing our sport from a competition operations standpoint. We've just continued to make strides in that department. I think that people are now more aware than ever that we have the best on-track racing product there is. You all know that, right? Because you live here, and I think the rest of the world is starting to realize that again. And so, I mean, the momentum is great, and everything associated with the sport is on the rise for the most part, and I think that's largely attributable to our teams and our drivers and our sponsors and our leadership, and, you know, Jay at IndyCar and Mark Miles as Hulman Company have just really done a lot to grow the sport, and so hopefully we can continue that trajectory, and all things look good.
How has the international, now that IndyCar controls the international marketing, you hold the rights yourself, how has that gone? And has it spread as you thought it would expand? Have countries been contacting you on a regular basis? Hey, we want to pick up this series.
Yeah, I think you know what you're referring to is the fact that when our ABC deal expired, so did the ESPN International rights for our content outside the U.S. They were our broker in some cases. In other cases, they sold the rights to themselves. But at any rate, from an international perspective, outside of the ABC deal and the NBCSN deal, ESPN International controlled our media rights. When that ended in 2018, we decided to bring our international media rights back in-house. Miles and I created INDYCAR Media, and we decided that we wanted to go directly to the international broadcasters and control our own destiny as it relates to growing the sport and knowing as much as we could about our international media partners. So now you're asking, well, after 1 year of doing that, how does it look? And I think it's been a success. Obviously, from a revenue standpoint, that's one way to measure it, and on that front, we're happy. But I think broader than that, the idea that we know without a middleman our media partners. We know Canal Plus in France. We know Movie Star Telefonica in Spain. We know Geora and NHK in Japan, and so on and so on. It's the only way to really grow a property is to make sure you know what your international broadcasters really want from the sport, what we can do to make their viewership increase, which will help the total global viewership. And then they need to know more about us directly from us without a middleman about the things that we can offer. For example, customized content through IMS Productions. We have our own in-house television production company who can do a lot. In fact, they produce the world feed that NBC uses, that the international broadcast partners use. That's right here, developed in Indianapolis. And obviously, it's on the road when we're there, but it's through our mobile production units, and we do that. And so there's a whole bunch of things we can do, like ancillary program, all kinds of behind-the-scenes B-roll footage, things like that, that international broadcasters can use to promote the sport, to get people more interested in IndyCar. And we're a sexy product, and we, as an in-house international media arm, can now offer them our bespoke services to make sure that they can grow our product much more than we could do with somebody like ESPN International in between us and those partners. So I think we're just now learning what's what. Who knows, how high up is up. But I think we feel good about it. I think we're learning more about our property and how we're viewed outside the U.S. I think our relationships are developing, and I think we feel good about the future of IndyCar internationally in the years to come.
Regarding setting up a schedule, when a promoter comes to you and said, hey, I've got this speedway you're familiar with, of course, we'd like to talk to you about scheduling an event at some point. What do you require, you and IndyCar require of a promoter to promote a race? Because if they drop the ball, it makes you guys look bad. So what do they have to do, and how do you schedule? My thought has always been, and I've said this a number of times, to sanction a sanctioning fee. If the promoter does the work, it's X amount of dollars. If you're not capable, we'll drop it down and we'll do it, or we help you do it. But what do you require of a promoter to provide you so that you're sure that they're going to go out and beat the drums?
I'll speak at a high level without getting into the specifics. What I'll say about that is the days of if you can't do it, we'll help you, those are over. We only want competent, capable promoters to promote our events. And I think you'll see when you look at our schedule that we've got the cream of the crop when it comes to our promoters. The sanction fee is one thing. Of course, they've got to pay IndyCar to bring the show to their respective track or city. But more than that, we always do our due diligence and make sure that we can be comfortable that you've promoted similar, in terms of exposure and the height of the type of environment of event we're trying to bring, that you've promoted those kind of events in the past. In some cases, it's promoters that have already shown the ability to promote motorsports. In other cases, there's cities that have shown their ability or propensity to promote major events. We like both, but the key is you have to show to us that you can do it and do it at a high level, because we think IndyCar should be at a certain level and we're not willing to drop below it. I think if you look at our schedule, you'll see that all of our promoters passed that litmus test. I feel good about the 2020 schedule. I think we continue to grow, we continue to get better, but there's a lot of factors to consider. We just can't go to certain markets without considering what else they have in the marketplace in a certain time of year, the right promoter. We have to look at where we are on the schedule and make sure we're filling in certain gaps in the geographic areas. But overall, we're looking at cadence of events, we're looking at great facilities and venues, we're looking at great cities and markets we want to be in. We consider TV, we consider the promoter, we consider other things going on in the marketplace in that particular time of year. And when you put it all together, it really is a tough puzzle. But I think, and hopefully you all agree, that over the last few years, we've really done a good job. I mean, this is the fourth schedule that I've led the development of. In 2017, we added Gateway for the return. I think most people think that that's been an overwhelming success over the 3 events that they've had so far. The next year we added Portland, which was in high demand in terms of the return. We hadn't raced there in many years. Now we're at Portland International Raceway. I think everybody thinks that's an overwhelming success. This past year we added Circuit of the Americas for the first time, the only F1 venue in the U.S. And then we added Laguna Seca, a fan favorite, as our finale this year, and they'll have their first event again as the finale this year. And then you saw the 2020 schedule when we added Richmond Raceway. So I think over those 4 years, you've seen kind of the return of some fan favorite events, but great promotion, great historic races, and we're really pleased about the way our schedules are looking. And so hopefully you all feel that we've done a good job in that department.
Well, as you recall, you got a phone call, and old Watash was on the other end of the line. And I said, how are things looking for Pocono? And you said, I don't know. And I think this was like Wednesday before the Pocono race, if I'm not mistaken. This brilliant idea struck me. Why don't you ask the man who schedules if he knows what's going on? And you said no. Mark last week said that you didn't really get word from them until Friday, and you announced the schedule on Sunday. What was the cause for them to back away? Because from what I'm told, the crowd was starting, not big, but it was starting to move up.
They were growing slightly year over year for the past couple of years. We were negotiating with their leadership. We announced our schedule on Sunday, the 1st of September. I think Thursday was the 29th, if my math's right. And we were talking to them about, adding them to the schedule as late as that Thursday. Making a deal to have an IndyCar race at any track is difficult. Contrary to what, a lot of people think, it's hard. There's a lot of factors that go into it. It's the economics are certainly part of it. The promoter's ability to generate revenue. Safety is certainly a critical piece, if not the most critical. and just trying to make sure that they're, it's on the right place in the calendar and has the best chance to be successful. We worked on it, and there just was not a deal to be made for 2020 between the parties, but no hard feelings. They certainly helped us grow the sport over the last couple of years. We have fond memories for the most part of the races and events we had at Pocono. Obviously, we've had some tragedy there, but I don't know that you can point the finger at the track for those issues. In fact, I'm sure you can't. But a lot went into it, a lot of conversation late into the calendar building cycle, and we just weren't able to figure out a way to do it for 2020. But I would be remiss to say, if I didn't say rather, that the door is not closed on that event, but you have to understand that both parties have a lot to consider when it comes to making a deal for an IndyCar race. And so I think both of us feel comfortable about where we landed for 2020, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Well, the thing that I find kind of interesting is the fact that a lot of fans, and I got a lot of emails, that's a dangerous track. No, it's not, because the majority of the incidents happened in the turn that's copied from IndyCar, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The banking is the same, and most of their problems ended up happening in the same place. So to me, and even Scott Dixon said it's a dangerous track, but they all are. It doesn't matter where you are; you can get hurt any place.
Ovals create a certain challenge at those speeds, and they're all full of risk, and our drivers know that, and they are realistic about it when we ask them about where they want to race, because we do consider our paddock when it comes to making these decisions about events. And nobody, other than you heard some social media, statements about whether or not we should return, but for every one that you heard that was negative, you heard another driver or another team say we should go back. So I don't want to make this a safety conversation. Certainly that's a critical element for every track when we're thinking about whether we want to be there or can be there. But I don't want to hear any conversation about that being the critical factor in the decision-making process, because it was not. There were a lot of different factors when it came down to it. It was a mutual decision to part ways, and no hard feelings, and we love what they've done for us in the past few years. We love their leadership, and who knows what the future holds.
Now, you said just a bit ago that IndyCar has no interest in helping promote an event, but you got some people on staff that's kind of what they do, I think, is tell, or you bring drivers in and get them on radio and television and talk about upcoming events. And I got to think that if somebody says, do you think we should go to Luigi's Pizza Parlor and promote with them, they'd say yay or nay, because to me, that's what you got them for.
I'm not sure I said that. Our job is to help our promoters promote events. But we're not in the promotion business, and we rely on our promoters to promote their events for us on the IndyCar Series schedule. But I don't think they're a better group of athletes in any sport when it comes to promoting the sport. I think our drivers are polished. I think they're articulate. I think they're interested. I think they're engaged. And I think they do a phenomenal job of telling their stories in the context of promoting the IndyCar Series. And so in that respect, we promote every day, and there's no group of drivers that are better than ours.
Well, yeah. Well, I will make a comment on that. You got one driver that's a little off the wall. His name is James Hinchcliffe. I watched his Honda commercials. I'm suing him. I bought 5. He convinced me. And to have him perhaps make a move for a year, although Honda said if he comes back next year, would love to talk to him, not a problem. But you're right, the drivers are willing. Some of them, what do you need tomorrow? I'll do it, whatever it is, wherever you want me to go. And I think that's what stands out against all other series. These guys will do it. You need them to make an appearance, and they'll be there.
There's no question. I mean, I've worked in other sports, basketball, football, soccer, and I've never seen anything quite like what I see from our drivers in terms of their desire to make it known how great the series is, how great the sport is, and to help it grow. So in that respect, I've got nothing but positive to say about what our drivers do. I love them to death.
You know, Mark was saying when one of the first times he was here, when he was involved in the WTA, and I said, how are the drivers in IndyCar if you need something? He said, well, let me tell you, when I was in the tennis world, I'd want a player to make an appearance somewhere, and the first thing they said is, how much?
Yeah.
He said, IndyCar, they don't ask you, just wear and win.
That's exactly right.
And that, to me, speaks huge, because as many people as there is involved in putting together a race car, the driver's the quarterback. He gets all of the notoriety, so that's the one that people cheer.
Yeah.
You know, they don't bring the engineer out and wave at the fans. They say, who the hell's that?
Yeah.
The driver is the quarterback and gets the attention, and they're willing, as far as I know, there isn't any that I'm aware of that would say, no, I can't, I got to fold laundry today.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, and you know, that comes, it's relationship development every day. They know that when IndyCar comes, led by our VP of marketing, S.J. Ludke, she came from Nike. And I think she's actually been on the show. I mean, she's improving, and it was already good, but she's building on the relationships we've got with our drivers, so they know that when IndyCar makes the request, it's a legitimate request, and that the time spent is valuable, and it will maximize the opportunity for them and make the exposure to them great, and it'll then enhance the series. You know, and so I think that we're doing a good job. Mike Zizzo, who came from Texas Motor Speedway, is now our VP of communications. He leads our PR efforts. Again, these are veterans in the sport that understand the importance of growing the sport, understanding that you've got to have great relationships with the drivers, and our promoters know how to use the drivers well. And so it's all about maximizing the exposure, but at the same time making sure that you're respectful of the drivers and the team's time. And the PR representatives and the marketing people that we have on the teams are exceptional, and I think they're doing a great job of working with us to create synergies and to make sure that we are really, really utilizing the drivers and teams brand to enhance our image and exposure. So right now it feels good. It feels good, but we got to continue to keep our heads down and continue to develop and grow the sport, and we've got a lot more to do.
Do you think that the exposure and the gained interest is critical? I should say, I know it is. It's critical in getting team sponsorship. Now, I know there's a gentleman, a couple guys who are in the process of trying to put together a new team for next year, and they apparently have the funding available. They need IndyCar's cooperation in the speedway and all that kind of thing. But you know, for a sponsor to come on board, and I've noticed a difference in television. In the past, they'd follow the first 2 or 3 cars, they'd look out the front of the leader, and there's nobody there. What are you looking at? Nothing. They've seemed to have focused on other, whether it's racing back in 8th, 9th, 10th, excuse me, they focus on the cars so that the sponsor gets some exposure, which is what they're there for, among other things. Yeah,
not just that. I mean, as I learned more about the sport in the almost 6 years I've been a part of it, I mean, that's some of the best racing too, right? I mean, if you follow the sport, you realize that it's not just the front of the pack where you see some of the competitive driving. I think some of the best part of the sport is in the middle to the back of the field, and you see how critical those moves turn out to be at the end of the season and at the end of each race. So for sure, they maximize the sponsors of those teams, etc. But also, I think it enhances the content. The way the NBC focuses on what's going on full field is maybe different than we've seen before, maybe you see anywhere else. So it's all good. It's teaching people like me a lot about the sport when you watch those kind of competition challenges that are happening in the back of the pack, in the middle of the pack. But to your point, for sure, it increases the breadth of exposure to sponsors, and as a result, hopefully increases their interest in being in the sport, because you don't have to pay top dollar to just represent the top team every single race. You can represent a middle of the pack team who's really making a push to be a top tier team, and you might get the same exposure if they're competitive. So I think it's on all fronts, it's all good, and I like what I'm seeing.
There's been talk, and Mark has talked somewhat considerably about it, and that's going to Mexico, Brazil, Australia.
Yeah.
Are they planning, are you looking at making that part of the series or something after the series is over, go there? Because I understand some of these places will pay a lot of money to get IndyCar to come, and they can share it with the team, so it helps their budget pick it up a little bit.
For sure, the teams are at the top of the analysis as to whether we want to do it. We want to make sure that we can make them whole and maybe even better if we do go outside the North America. I can tell you, Mexico, I don't really consider as a flyaway race because we can drive there like we would at Long Beach, for example. But I get the point that it's international in the sense that it's not U.S., right? But I don't really put that in the international bucket for the way we're discussing it. But for sure, Australia, we've had many months and almost years of conversations with the leadership of Queensland government. And again, there's a long way from the cup to the lip. It takes a lot to get these events done. You think about logistics and getting our teams and equipment over there at the right time of year. It's not cheap, and so there's challenges to get that done. And we're not just trying to get any international event to just take a check. We want to make sure that it fits within the way we perceive the NTT IndyCar Series, and try to make sure that it will help us grow the sport, and that we'll have a great event in whatever region we wind up in. But you're right to think about places like Australia, South America, no question. Even the Middle East are places that we've entertained conversations for years now. I think we're, at any given point, we are a minute away from having a couple of international races. At the same time, we could be talking in 2022 and have none. So it's really that delicate balance. We got to make sure that it makes sense for our teams. We don't want to just take an international race that increases the burden from an economic standpoint to our teams. But we also think that it's important to kind of grow the sport to be outside North America. I think we've always said that the week after the Super Bowl, that's kind of the beginning period of which we would entertain up to 2 international races through when we start at St. Pete. So the first, middle March. So we've got a nice 4 or 5 week window where we could have up to 2 international events. We're always close. And I can tell you that we are forever having conversations, and real conversations, about the prospect of being international. But again, it's not just any comer can have an IndyCar race. We want to make sure it makes sense for us. And so I think we're close, but we'll see what happens. We could be way far away too.
I worked for a race team when we traveled to Rio de Janeiro and Australia. And packing to go outside the United States is a pain in the neck, and it takes a long time.
And it's expensive.
And you gotta inventory every nut, bolt, screwdriver, everything, pack it up. And we used to put the wheels in, I just forgot the name of the plastic thing that you pour concrete in for, I forgot what it's called, but that's where I'm sorry? Sonotubes, yeah.
Sonotube.
We used to pack our wheels and tires in sonotube. And when we'd roll up, say, what the hell is that? That's where our wheels are. Never thought of that. Yeah. So it's a pain. It takes a week or more to put everything together just to go. And then when you come back, it takes another 4 or 5 days to put it all back where it came from. So it's a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money. Mark's got a good vision on what he wants us to accomplish, and I'm trying to do it. But it's not at the expense of costing our teams and not adding value to the series. We want to make sure that all things align, and hopefully you hear something soon about an international race, but only if it's great for the series, and that's important to us, and that's coming from the top. I have heard when there was talk earlier on several years ago that there were several sponsors that said they could care less. They're not in those countries anyway, so what the hell do we care?
Hey, look, I think everybody understands the importance of being a global sport. At the same time, this is a business investment. And so you're right, those sponsors have to feel that there's an ROI, otherwise what's the point? If it's increased cost, that doesn't make sense. If it helps the sport, it makes a lot of sense. So there's a fine balance, and we'll find the right meeting of the minds. And if it makes sense, we'll do it. If it doesn't, we won't. We want to do it to grow the sport and to increase the economy of motorsport, but we will not just do it to do it. And I think you've seen that. So while it's been public that we want an international event, and some might perceive it to be a failure because we haven't achieved one in the past few years, I think what they should think is that we're really, really careful about where we're going to go, and we're not going to go just to go. So I feel good about where we are as it relates to international events.
And as you know, having breakfast with Mark on a number of occasions, he took a series in tennis that had a few events in one country, and the top players were making maybe 50, 75, 100,000 a year, to an international series where the players made millions. So he knows how to do it. He knows what to look for, I think. So
he's the best. I mean, from tennis, which I won't spend any more time on because you've already done it. He created the kind of the global aspect of that sport and increased their exposure. So he knows what it takes to get that done. If it were up to me, we might have had an international race or two already. But he's smart enough to know, and much smarter than me to know that you got to make sure that it really will enhance the sport. And he's not going to do it just to do it. The economics have to be right, and it has to be the right place at the right time of year, and it has to do more than just be a check to IndyCar. It has to be something that will enhance the image of the sport. So I give him all the credit for being kind of disciplined when it comes to our international exposure. Because if it were me, I might have I might have already gone.
Well, I thank you for your time and your straightforwardness with what's going on. I think that the series is definitely headed in the right direction. I think, by the way, there's somebody sitting out here that tried to sign up for NBC Sports Gold.
Okay.
And they told her she had to buy a new refrigerator or something.
That's false.
Is there
fake news?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. She was told by NBC she had to have a fire plug or something, or whatever you call that thing. But is it available on any? If you have AT&T or you have Comcast or you have Brightpoint or whatever it is it available anywhere?
So recently, it's okay. Recently, it's. I'll let that announcement be made more publicly because I'm not sure if it's. But really think about it as a mobile for now, and some cable outlets will hopefully you'll see in the future that they'll have the ability to show NBC Sports Gold as part of the TV offering, meaning on your smart television, like you see with DAZN or like you see with YouTube or like you see with Netflix or like you see with Amazon Prime. I'm just not up to speed as we sit here now to know if that announcement's been made public, but I think that's coming as part of cable package, a certain cable package for NBC Sports Gold, but I need to take a pause to go check and see if I can find a press announcement on whether that announcement's been made before I say more.
Well, I heard there was an announcement supposed to be coming up in the next few days or something, and they said, "Do you know what it is?" I said, "I haven't a clue." How would I know? They don't call me and say, "Hey, guess what, buddy boy?" They don't tell me. I got to find out like everybody else. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and keeping us up to speed with what's going and,
sure.
and why and so forth. And I have to admit, one of the most common comments made about an attorney is if his mouth is moving, he's lying. In this case, I don't think it's true.
I'm a recovering attorney. So I do maintain my law license, and I am licensed in the state of Indiana and DC to practice law, and I will keep that because you never know what happens. One day Mark Miles might decide that I'm no longer the guy. But as long as I'm here now, I am not an attorney for the company. And I've moved to the business side going on 4 years now, but I appreciate that comment, and it makes me feel good to know that you can at least trust me when I come up here, because that's a low bar, but I think it's true.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I've never found anything you told us here to be false, so
It's true.
I appreciate it, and thanks for coming. And of course, unfortunately for you, I know how to get a hold of you. I'll maybe
Anytime.
get you back, and you'll say, "Oh, this again?" Oh,
No,
we'll find
it's
something else.
it's great to be here. I love doing it. I love talking about our sport. I'm bullish on IndyCar. I feel good about what we're doing, and I got to tell you, Don, I mean, you are critically important to what we do. You've been always supportive of us. You always ask the right questions. You're always following up when we're not just on the air. You care, and it always makes us all want to come do your show, because we know that you have nothing but the best interest of IndyCar and Indianapolis 500 and IMS in mind, and obviously the support that you have here, there's no difference. So thank you for everything you do. Thank you all for the support, because we couldn't be what we are trying to be without the support of all the people that have been in the sport much longer than me and teach me every day about the sport. So thank you for all you do. Thanks to all the supportive fans, and we appreciate you guys.
And my IT guy said there's a boatload of people watching online tonight. They got done cutting the grass, now they're watching us online. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I hope my next guest is here somewhere. John, are you here? Oh, I'm sorry, did I wake you? Oh, okay. I want to mention that if you want to find out what these guys and gals love about IndyCar, why not take a ride in a two-seater? It's a great event, a great experience, and you can do it very easy. You can go online to IndyRacingExperience.com, look for a date that you can work with either here at the Speedway or at the other events around the country they go. And in the promo box, when you find a date that works, put SJ1 and you get a 50% discount. Or you can call Shonda at the office. The number is 317-243-7171 and talk to her and have her help put it together for you. If you're a vintage car fan, you need to get a copy of what's now called the Speed Tour from SVRA. Great stories. Find out what drivers that you followed when you were coming and growing up in the sport, where they are. A lot of them are driving these cars. So go to svra.com and subscribe to Speed Tour. I'm telling you, it's a first-class magazine. Great stories, great editing. Everything is good. So you'll want it. I get it and I read it cover to cover. And speaking of SVRA, the next event will be September 19th to the 22nd at the 2019 Heacock Classic Gold Cup at Virginia International Raceway. And one of the participants is going to be Al Unser Jr., among others. So if you're anywhere in that area, be sure and get out there, take a look at it. You'll enjoy it. It's great. You'll just have a good time seeing all the cars and the drivers. And I think Willie T is going to be there trying to win a championship in his division. So you want to go out and harass him a little bit. If you need insurance for your home, your car, or commercial property, do what I've done and a lot of people have done. They talk to Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Give them a call. Talk to them. His number is 317-248-0070. My next guest is a gentleman who's been involved in motorsports for many years. He is currently the general manager for Belardi Motorsports, Belardi Racing, and has been around for a long time, but the last time I talked to his boss, one of his things he'd like to do was get into IndyCar, and I know that's something that John just can't wait to do. And incidentally, the famous band, the world-famous band, Beep Line, the drummer is John's brother. Please welcome John Brunner. How come you're in motorsports instead of music?
Steve got all the music talent. I got zero.
I see. So instead of singing or doing something, you go to the race team and yell.
Yeah, that's pretty correct.
You guys have had success and you've had struggles. Do you feel that the Road to Indy program is doing what it's designed to do, and that is to educate the drivers and equip them to be able to have the opportunity, if it presents itself, to move up?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's proven itself year after year with the drivers that are coming out of lights and going to IndyCar. The whole ladder system has done a great job.
How did Brian Belardi get into this? What is his motivation? His company makes something to make candy with.
Yeah, they do molds and conveyor. Conveyor equipment.
And you might remind him he was going to send us some to pass out, and it hasn't showed up yet.
He's never sent the shop any either. I don't know what's.
Well, I'll have to get a hold of him.
Right.
I got the clue. Talk to Jill.
It's all about Jill. No, Brian's motivation, he was a racer himself, raced a lot of years, and he got pretty excited a few years ago about jumping up a class, and brought in some really good help that steered him towards Indy Lights. So he made the jump from SCCA racing to USF 2000, and while he was at it, he decided to add Indy Lights all in one move.
Has he regretted that?
I don't think so. I think he quite enjoys it. He, as you said, he has bigger dreams than what he has right now. So,
and I know you're excited about that.
Well, of course I am.
What got you started in motorsports? You tired of listening to your brother pounding on his skin, so you said, I got to get out of here and do something else.
That's true. I did have plenty of years having to listen to him beat on the drums. He didn't used to be so good.
Yeah, he is not bad. He's made Phil look good, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
He plays loud enough you can't hear Phil sing, so that's a good part.
No, that band is very good. Stephen's sitting up there with my girlfriend right now. He's here in the house.
Oh, is he?
Yep, he's back there.
I'll be darned. Well, wave and say hello, Steve, wherever you are. I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Okay, he's hiding. I want to mention quickly that the Beep Line, the 60s and 70s tribute band, plays at the Howard County Vietnam Veterans Reunion Show this Saturday. Thursday. I just want to make sure that you two weren't, Thursday, September 19th, starting at 7 o'clock. And it is south of Greentown, Indiana, one of my favorite places. Never heard of it. And just east of Kokomo on Indiana 26, right off the 31 bypass. It's an early night, so it's a place you want to go. And just remember, you're never on hold with Beep Line. So go out and see him Thursday night. And if I don't cough myself to death, maybe I'll show up. What got you started in motorsports other than the noise?
I grew up in Brownsburg, Indiana, so I've always been near the speedway here, and honestly, back then I think I thought there was only the Indy 500. I don't think they realized there was even a whole series besides that race. Met someone. I worked in a brake and alignment shop. Met someone that was in racing. Started helping him at in the evenings, and it just carried on from there.
What are some of the teams you toiled for?
I had my own team in SCCA for 6 or 7 years, and then my first, what I would say, professional job was Players Forsyth Racing, and that was a pretty big first job.
You're not kidding. It's a big operation.
Yes, it was.
What has made you wanting to be the general manager and oversee everything instead of just being a mechanic and they say, well, you forgot to tighten this. Now you oversee everything. You can tell somebody that they didn't tighten what they're supposed to.
That's correct, because I don't like people telling me what to do very often. So I needed to get to that position.
Is Brian somebody who, or I guess his wife is very much involved, and you probably do a lot of communicating with her, but it seems to me that he doesn't say, well, maybe that would be good, but we won't do it. It seems like when you need something, you get it.
Yeah, they both are very good at letting me run their team. They live in Wisconsin. Brian has 2 other businesses to run. Jill has
to run.
Yeah, she has the kids and me to worry about. But they're both very good about letting us run the team as we see. For the most part, they're very capable of saying no, that's enough, but day to day they pretty much let me run the team as.
Who picks the drivers?
Brian and I generally will spend the most time on the driver, the short list, you might say. There's a lot that goes into that. There's always, who the best drivers are coming, but is it the best driver for your team? Budget has to be considered. Where the finances, unfortunately at that level, this level of motorsports, most of the funding comes from the driver themselves.
What does it take to run a solid lights team? Equipment, travel, the whole thing. What does it take to run a car?
Depends. It's going to depend on the team. My team, Brian's team, we're probably $900,000. Someone like Andretti and Ricky Juncos, you're probably more like 1.1, 1.2 million.
Is that a drawback to getting drivers to come to this series, or is it they say, well, if we run in Europe, it costs $2.5 million to run in essentially the same car?
Yeah, I think that is one of the keys there. It's going to be more expensive to run in Europe. There's still a lot of people that, a lot of those top drivers are still dreaming of the F1 ride. So they're, you get, usually those top drivers are going to stay there no matter what the price is. Once they realize that that dream's going to be hard to achieve, they'll start looking at the U.S. And the Ladder Series is doing so much better at promoting, and then the IndyCar Series doing so well right now is changing a lot of drivers' outlooks.
Do you like the 2020 schedule was just released?
Yeah, I think the schedule is pretty good. Indy Lights has fallen off. The COTA race, I was a little disappointed with that. We're going back to Barber this year. It's nice to have a race in April. We had a pretty big drop-off, so the Barber race makes sense, but I am disappointed to lose COTA.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that, and I've been wanting to send a note to Dan Anderson and ask him why, and I just haven't gotten to it.
It really just comes down to team budgets. They're trying to hold the schedules as close to where they are now, the same amount of races, so that the team budgets stay about the same. We don't want the budgets to go up.
Do you like the double, 2 races on a weekend? Do you like that?
Yeah, I do like that. I think that's more in line with Europe. It's what at this lower level, we need more racing, more wheel-to-wheel time, and so I think that is very important for all of the ladder series.
And the thing that intrigues me and it also disappoints me is the number of competitors. I've gotten a story on a number of occasions. Well, they're waiting for the new car. What the hell's wrong with the car they got?
Yeah.
Run the stupid thing. But having said that, as anybody who knows who watches, there may only be 9 or 10 cars, but they're all together. You don't have to wait, a minute and a half for another car to come by. They're all together, and the competition is phenomenal.
Yeah, it is, and it's the way it's been over the years. It wouldn't, it doesn't seem to matter if there's 18 cars or 10. You're going to have that front group of 5, 6 cars are going to be together, and multiple people have a shot at winning. I think the car count will come back up next year. I believe we should be a new team announcement next week for Indy Lights. One for sure. I heard there may be two new teams looking to come.
I know Carlin's been talking about wanting to come back, but so far they haven't made it.
Yeah, that one's a little disappointing. They were supposedly coming back this year and didn't, and those cars are just sitting on the shelves right now.
Oh. Well, if I had $900,000, I'd buy one and go run.
Right.
How many cars do you regularly run in lights?
Our team, we are generally 2. We would like to be 3. I think Brian would be fine with 4. 3 or 4 doesn't make any difference to me. 3 or 4 would be fine.
Yeah, but actually it seems to me from the team owners that I've talked to, if you got a car and you can run a second one, the second one doesn't cost near as much as the first one.
Yep, that's correct.
So you can run 2 cars for a little more money, but not an astronomical amount, plus the feedback you can get and the things you can try between 2 drivers sure as hell makes it worthwhile. What are you anticipating this weekend in Monterey?
Very nice weather, pretty good food.
Yeah, I've heard that the team owners all want to go there because they can entertain their sponsors there. I said, for Pete's sake, they got trucking. They could come from there with the wine and the cheese and come to Gateway.
It's a beautiful place. Laguna Seca is a great track, a great place to end the season, I think, for IndyCar and Indy Lights both. It should be a good race weekend for everyone. They've got, I think the only series that's not running there is the Robbie Gordon trucks. Yeah, and I'm surprised they're not there. They've been everywhere lately.
But there's about at least 5 other series running, so you're going to hear Paul Tracy and Townsend Bell saying, well, the rubber on the track now, they got to get, change every time you get on there, they change it.
Yep.
But it should be interesting. I can't remember, are you guys scheduled to run at Richmond?
No.
No, I don't understand that one.
No, I was hoping we were going to run at Richmond. I was a little disappointed when we weren't on the schedule. I mean, Jason Penix had called me and said, "What do you think of Richmond, Gateway?" I think they just want to keep the Indy Lights running 3 ovals. I'd like to see 4.
So would I. but I'm an oval freak anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, well. For everybody who isn't aware, the final race of the season is this Sunday, be televised live on NBC Network. And for the, I don't know if it's 12th or 13th consecutive year, the championship comes down to the last race. And there's double points for this one, which I think goes all the way through the series. I mean, from 1 to 22, they all get double points. And the determination that Alexander Rossi has, don't count him out. It's going to be fun to watch. And we'll be watching, as I told Stephan, I have Indy Gold, so I watch, or NBC Gold, so I watch the lights cars and practically qualify, so I'll be peering over the chair looking at them. And I found, I didn't realize this, you can go to racecontrol.indycar.com and you can watch the USF 2000 and the Pro Indy 2000 as well. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and they actually the Road to Indy, there's a Road to Indy app you can download, and you can actually watch the USF 2000 races and the Pro Mazda race.
Well, as I was embarrassed to mention to a young lady who was telling me about this tune-up thing, you can get on the phone and listen to all the radio stations that you can't get anywhere, you can get it on there. I said, but a flip phone doesn't work.
No, so, Don, it might be time for the flip phone to go.
I don't think so. Well, it's, again, you guys have had an up and down year. Are your drivers set for next year, or are you negotiating, or somebody wants to move up, or going to move up? Or?
Yeah, we're working on those things now. Daily, Brian and I are having those discussions. We're in contact with a few drivers, back and forth. We've got a couple of proposals out. We've got high hopes on hopefully getting something done here soon for next year.
Well, just think, if they got 9 cars now, if you added 2 more, that's 11, and if 1 or 2 teams come in, you could have 15 cars and everybody get nervous.
I think it's very possible for next year.
Well, that's good. I got to call Jason, tell him to get on the stick. Get moving, let's get this thing going. Well, good luck to you this weekend. Thanks for taking the time to come out here, and I'm glad you don't pay the drums.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. John Brunner, the team manager for Velarde Racing. Thanks for coming. And if you get a chance and want to talk about playing the drums, his brother Steve is sitting over here. He'll probably give you a couple lessons. And I want to also mention, if you have not been over to the museum as yet to see the Mario Andretti show, you need to go there, talk to these lovely blondes sitting facing whatever direction is south. She'll be there at the gate, at the desk when you come in. It's a great exhibit. It's here until October. If you haven't been there, stop by and see it. Until next week, and I'm not sure of the guests yet because I don't know exactly who's coming back to town after the race. There's the banquet that's afterwards, and some of these guys will probably stay out there and lollygag. But I've got a couple ideas of working something. If you don't know who the guests are, you can go to my website, autosportradio.com, and click on the auto shows and see, or if you're on my Facebook thing or read it, I send it public so you can find it. And I also want to mention that our good friend, the Hall of Fame sprint car driver, I think he was supposed to get out of the hospital yesterday. It's Eldon Rasmussen. He went to the hospital, and they told his wife, who's also his chauffeur, said his blood sugar level was 1,300. And it's supposed to be in 110 or 120, somewhere in there. 1,300. How he's still alive is amazing. But he had to be able to swallow in order to get out, and I've called several times today to the phones that I have, 2 he has, and I didn't get an answer, so I don't know how he's doing, but she was hopeful he'd get out either yesterday or today. But we wish Eldon well. Don't want to see anything happen to him. Because I figure if Howard Bellison, a.k.a. Howdy Bell, can be around, Eldon needs to be here. So until next week, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next week, good night.